Why? Absorbing his words. And do you believe that alliances are enough?
That safety is found in numbers alone? Her gaze didn't waver, as though she was probing his very soul. Hale hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Maybe not, but it's a start.
We can't survive alone. There was a long pause.
Sorel's gaze softened, and for a moment, Hale could see the deep sadness in her eyes. She took a step forward, her voice lowering. And what do you truly want, Captain Hale? The question caught him off guard. He hadn't expected her to ask something so personal. His mind raced as he considered the answer. He wasn't sure how to put his feelings into words. This wasn't just about humanity's survival. It was about something much deeper, something he hadn't fully acknowledged until now. He trailed off, uncertain. I want to belong to something greater than myself. I want to be part of something that matters, something that transcends just surviving. Sorel's expression softened, a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. She looked at him for a long moment, and in that silence, Hale felt something shift within him. It was as if she had seen straight through the walls he had built around himself. In that moment, he knew he had revealed more than he intended.
That is what we offer, she said, her voice almost a whisper, a connection to something greater.
To something that exists beyond your understanding. Hale didn't fully understand her words, but something about them resonated within him. It was a feeling he couldn't explain, a pull toward Sorel that he couldn't ignore. She was different from the other Islenar he had met. There was an undeniable presence about her, an energy that felt like a calm storm on the horizon. Come with me, she said, her tone inviting yet firm. We will continue our conversation with the council. You have much to learn. Hale followed Sorel through the grand corridors of the Alinar building, the floors beneath their feet shimmering with a soft glow. The walls were lined with intricate, glowing patterns that seemed to pulse with life. It was as if the very structure of the city was alive, breathing in sync with the planet itself. As they walked, Hale couldn't shake the feeling that Sorel had more to reveal, but he wasn't sure if he was ready to face it. He had joined the mission with the belief that humanity needed the Ilanar's technology and their peaceful ways. But now, as he moved deeper into their world, he wondered if it was more than that. Had he come here for protection, or was it something else? Was there a part of him that sought a deeper connection, something he hadn't even realized he needed? They arrived at a large, circular chamber where the council members of the Ilanar awaited. The room was filled with an ethereal light, and the air hummed with a strange energy. Hale felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. He wasn't just representing Earth anymore. In some way, he felt as if he was representing himself, his own inner search for meaning. The council members stood in a semicircle, their expressions serene but expectant. At the center of the group stood a towering figure, their features bathed in a soft light. Sorel motioned for Hale to approach. This is the council, she said. They will guide you in understanding what you are truly seeking. Hale stepped forward, his heart beating faster. He had always been a man of logic and reason, trained to handle negotiations and keep his emotions in check. But here, among the Ilanar, he felt out of place. He was no longer just a captain. He was a man faced with a question he hadn't known how to answer. What was he really seeking? The tallest of the council members spoke, his voice deep and resonant. Captain Hale, you have come to us seeking an alliance. But before we proceed, we must understand what it is that drives you. What is it that you truly seek from this galaxy? Hale met the gaze of the council leader, feeling the weight of their collective wisdom pressing in on him. The room seemed to grow warmer, the energy intensifying. Sorel stood by his side, her presence grounding him. I want to understand, he said finally, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. I want to know if there's more to life than just survival.
I want to know if peace is possible, not just for my people, but for everyone.
The council members exchanged silent glances, their faces unreadable. After a long pause, the council leader nodded.
"Then you will learn," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "But first, you must understand that peace is not something that can be given to you. It must be earned. It is not something that exists outside of you, Captain Hale."
It is something that lives within. Sorrel stepped forward, placing a hand on Hale's shoulder. You have already taken the first step. Now, the journey will begin. As Hale stood there in the presence of the Alinar Council, he felt a strange sense of anticipation. The path ahead was unclear, but for the first time he felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of something greater than he had ever imagined. The days following Captain Hale's meeting with the Alinar Council felt like a blur. He had been thrust into a world unlike anything he had ever known, a world that was not just peaceful, but alive in ways he could scarcely understand. The air on Althara seemed to hum with a quiet, ancient energy, and the very ground beneath his feet felt connected to something vast, something far older than Earth itself. The Alinar had no need for weapons or defenses, for their civilization thrived on the bonds they shared with one another and with the planet itself. This bond was not just a metaphor or a philosophy. It was a real, living force, an energy that flowed through them and through everything around them. Hale had felt it the moment he stepped onto the planet, but now, after his conversation with Sorrel in the council, he realized that he was only beginning to scratch the surface of its true power. Jake's curiosity was piqued.
"Who?" Dr. Clark gestured to the back of the room where a woman stood.
She was tall, with striking features, dark eyes that seemed to look right through him, and hair that shimmered like silver under the harsh lights. She wore a simple black suit, the kind of attire that could belong to anyone. But there was something different about her, something Jake couldn't quite place. "This is Arya, Doctor."
Clark introduced her. She's not just anyone.
She's different. Jake studied her for a moment. There was an air about her that felt almost otherworldly, but he couldn't put his finger on it. What makes her different? Arya stepped forward, her gaze locking with his. She didn't speak at first, but there was something in the way she looked at him that sent a chill down his spine. It was as though she was seeing more than just him. She was seeing deep into his mind, into his soul.
"I know why you're here,"
she said, her voice calm and smooth, almost melodic.
"And I know what's happening to your people." Jake blinked, his mind racing. "How do you know that?" "I've been watching," Arya replied.
Watching your world, your species. I've been waiting for the right moment to reveal myself. Jake took a step back, his instincts on high alert. This wasn't just some stranger. This was someone who had information that could change everything. But why now? Why was she here? "What do you mean you've been watching?" he asked, his tone sharp. Arya's gaze softened, and she placed a hand gently on his arm. The touch was light, but it sent a strange pulse through him, as if her very presence was stirring something deep inside him. "I am not entirely human," she said quietly.
"I am part of a species known as the Savara. We have been observing humanity for millennia, waiting for the right time to make ourselves known." Jake's heart skipped a beat. "Aliens? Real aliens?"
He had known of their existence. After all, he had fought against alien invaders before. But this was something else. This woman wasn't just an alien in the traditional sense. She was something more.
The words she spoke next would echo in his mind for the rest of his life.
"You are on the brink of something greater," she said, her voice filled with an unspoken weight.
Something you'll never forget. Before Jake could respond, she reached out with her hand, and just for a moment, their minds touched. It was like nothing he had ever experienced. He could feel her thoughts, her emotions, like a ripple across his own consciousness. There was a flood of sensations, calmness, power, knowledge, and an overwhelming sense of connection. Then, just as quickly as it had begun, the connection was gone. Jake stepped back, his mind reeling from the experience.
"What did you do to me?" he demanded, his voice shaky but firm. Arya smiled, a small, almost sad smile. "I only gave you a glimpse, a taste of what's to come."
The connection between us is not just a physical one. It is deeper than that. You will come to understand it in time. Jake's heart was racing. He didn't know what to think, what to believe. His mind was still spinning from the brief touch they had shared, and the words she had spoken echoed in his head. He wasn't sure if he could trust her, but one thing was clear. Whatever was happening, whatever the Savara were preparing humanity for, was far bigger than anything he had ever imagined. As he left the room, the whispers from earlier seemed to return, louder now. But this time, they weren't just random thoughts. They were clear. They were calling him.
"You are not alone," the voice whispered again, and this time Jake knew it wasn't just a random phrase. It was a message, a warning.
And he was about to be caught in something far bigger than he could ever have imagined. Jake spent the next few days trying to make sense of everything. His mind felt foggy, as if it was being pulled in different directions. He couldn't stop thinking about the encounter with Arya, the way her voice had echoed in his head, and the strange connection they had shared. There was something about her, something otherworldly. Her words, "You are on the brink of something greater," haunted him every waking moment. But what did she mean? And why did he feel as though he had heard those words before, in a place deep inside his own mind? As Jake stood in his office, staring out the window at the bustling city below, the feeling of unease wouldn't go away. He had been called in to investigate strange mental intrusions, but this was no longer just a case to solve. Something bigger was happening, something beyond his understanding. His thoughts were interrupted when Dr. Evelyn Clark walked into the room. She looked more determined than usual, her face serious and focused. Jake had worked with her before, and despite the odd nature of the situation, he trusted her. "Captain," she began, "I think I figured out something important. It's about the voice, the one that's been speaking to people's minds." Jake turned, his curiosity piqued. "What have you found?" "I've been analyzing the patterns, and I believe the voice is not just speaking at random. It's directed, it's targeted," she explained. "It's been reaching out to people for a reason, and I think I know why."
Jake raised an eyebrow. "Why? Doctor—"
Clark hesitated for a moment, glancing around as though checking to make sure no one was listening.
"It's trying to prepare us for something."
The voice isn't just about communication. It's about awakening a potential that's been hidden inside humanity for generations. Jake frowned. "Awakening potential? What do you mean by that?"
"I think the voice is connecting with something deep inside us. Our minds, our consciousness," she said. "It's not just trying to communicate with us, it's unlocking a power that we don't fully understand yet." Jake leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "So what? The voice is giving us some kind of ability?"
Doc Clark nodded. "That's what I think. It's like a seed being planted inside each of us, a seed that's been dormant for centuries, waiting for the right moment to grow. And the people who are hearing the voice, they're the ones who have the potential to awaken it."
Jake's mind whirled. "You're saying the voice is choosing people?"
"Yes,
"I think the voice is trying to find those who can harness this power," Dr. Clark said.
and I believe you're one of them, Captain."
The words hit Jake like a jolt. He had felt something strange during his encounter with Arya.
A connection, yes, but also a strange sense of awareness. It was as though a part of him had been awakened, like a long-forgotten memory was bubbling to the surface.
"I don't know if I'm ready for something like this," Jake admitted. "I'm not exactly special."
Doctor. Clark looked at him with a mixture of understanding and certainty. "You may not feel special, Captain, But the truth is, you've been chosen. And there's something inside you, something buried deep, that's calling out. Just like the others. Jake wasn't sure whether to feel honored or terrified. The weight of the situation was beginning to settle heavily on him. He had always been a soldier, trained to fight, to protect. But this was different. It wasn't about weapons or tactics. It was about something far more powerful, something that could change everything. "Where do we go from here?" Jake asked, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside his mind. Dr. Clark stood up, walking over to the large map on the wall.
"I've been tracking the other cases, the people who have heard the voice. The pattern is clear.
These people are not just random. They're part of something bigger. They are linked. And I think that the voice is guiding them, bringing them together for a reason." Jake studied the map, which was filled with red dots marking locations all over the world. There were clusters of dots in places he would have never expected. Small towns, hidden islands, isolated areas. He could feel the weight of the connection between them, a connection that went beyond geography. It was a connection that pulled at something deeper.
"This isn't just about Earth, is it?" Jake asked quietly. "Doctor?"
Clark didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned toward him and said, "I think it's about more than Earth. I think it's about the universe." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had always known that humanity was not alone in the vast expanse of the universe, but the idea that someone, was reaching out to them, guiding them toward something greater, that was beyond his comprehension. "Who is doing this?" Jake asked, his voice almost a whisper. Dr. Togman. Clark's eyes flickered to the side. "I don't know. But I think it's someone, or something, who's been watching humanity for a very long time. Someone with immense power. Someone who sees something in us that we don't even see in ourselves." Jake felt a shiver of recognition at the thought. Arya had said something similar. She had mentioned that the Savara, her people, had been watching humanity for centuries. But what was their purpose? What were they preparing humanity for? And why did Jake feel like he was at the center of it all? I need to find out more about Arya," Jake said, standing up.
She knows more than she's telling me.
Dr. Clark nodded.
"I think you're right. But be careful, Captain."
"The more you learn, the more dangerous this will become. Whoever is behind this, whoever is trying to awaken us, they won't stop just because we ask nicely."
Jake looked out the window again, his thoughts swirling. The weight of the situation felt heavier than ever.
He had been a soldier his whole life, trained to fight and survive. But this wasn't about fighting an enemy. This was about something far more complex, something that could change humanity's place in the universe forever. "I'll find out what's going on," Jake said, his voice firm. "But I need answers, and I need to understand why this is happening now." As he walked out of the room, the whispers returned to his mind, louder this time, clearer. "You are not alone." Jake stopped in his tracks, feeling the presence of the voice like a warm breath on the back of his neck. The connection was growing stronger, and he couldn't ignore it anymore. It was as if the voice was calling to him, drawing him toward something that would change everything he thought he knew. But the deeper he went into this mystery, the more he realized that the answers were not. Sorel had been a constant presence since that first meeting, guiding him through the unfamiliar customs and rituals of the Ilanar people. She had patiently answered his questions and watched him as he struggled to grasp the deeper meanings behind their way of life. But there was something else in her eyes, a depth of understanding, a wisdom that spoke of ancient secrets she was only just beginning to reveal to him. One evening, as Hale sat in the quiet garden of the embassy, his mind still reeling from the council's cryptic words, Cyril appeared beside him. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the garden's shimmering pools. Hale had become accustomed to the beauty of the Alinar city, but this moment felt different. There was a stillness in the air, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. "You're restless," Sorel said softly. "You're struggling to understand." Hale looked at her, his brow furrowed. "I don't know what to think anymore."
I came here thinking I had all the answers. I thought an alliance with the Islandar would be about securing Earth's future, about getting your technology, your knowledge.
But now, he paused, searching for the right words. "Now I feel like I'm part of something much bigger, something I don't fully understand, and I'm not sure I'm ready for it."
Sorel smiled, a gentle and knowing smile. "You don't have to be ready, Captain."
"This is not something that can be forced. The bond we share with our world, with each other, cannot be understood in an instant. It is something that must be felt." Hale turned his gaze to the distant horizon, where the twin moons of Alfara were beginning to rise. The sky was painted with shades of purple and gold, a sight so breathtaking that it took his breath away. Yet, despite the beauty around him, a nagging feeling lingered in his chest. There was something inside him, an emptiness, a longing that he couldn't shake.
"I don't know how to accept it," Hale admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "I've spent my whole life fighting, protecting what's mine, doing whatever it takes to survive, and now you're telling me that peace, this bond you speak of, is the answer. But how can I just accept it?" Siral stepped closer, her presence calming.
You don't have to accept it all at once.
"Just listen. The bond is not about domination or control. It is about harmony. We do not seek to own the world, but to live in balance with it."
To understand the rhythms of life and to become part of them. She paused for a moment, as if considering her next words carefully.
You have already taken the first step, Captain.
Your answer to the Council's question, that you seek to belong to something greater than yourself, was the key. You are already connected to the energy of Althera, though you may not yet realize it. Hale felt a shiver run down his spine. He had thought Sorel's words were just metaphors, a part of the Islanar's strange way of speaking. But now, in the stillness of the garden, he felt something different. There was an energy in the air, something he could almost touch, like a current running through his veins. "I'm not sure I understand," Hale said, still unsure of what to make of the sensation swirling within him.
You will, Cyril replied, her voice filled with a quiet certainty.
"But first you must experience the bond for yourself. You must let go of the fear that keeps you separate, that keeps you from truly connecting with this world, with yourself." Before Hale could respond, Sorel turned and motioned for him to follow her. She led him through the garden, past the pools of glowing water and the trees whose branches shimmered with an ethereal light. They arrived at a circular stone platform, surrounded by ancient markings that glowed faintly in the twilight. "This is where it happens," Sorel said, turning to face him. "The ceremony. It is how we connect to the energy of Alfara and to each other."
"It is not something you can force, Captain. You must simply let it flow through you."
Hale stood at the edge of the platform, his heart pounding. He had never been one for rituals or ceremonies, but the quiet power of the Alanar people, the calm assurance in Sorel's voice, made him pause. Maybe this was the step he needed to take. Maybe this was what he had been searching for all along. Sorel placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and grounding. "Don't be afraid, Captain.
This is not a test. It is simply a way of becoming one with the world around you."
Hale took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. He stepped onto the platform, feeling the cool stone beneath his feet. The markings on the ground began to glow more brightly, casting a soft, pulsating light around him. Sorel stood beside him, her presence unwavering. "Close your eyes," Sorel instructed gently. "Let go of everything. The doubts, the fears, the need to control. Let yourself be present. Hale hesitated for a moment but then did as she asked. He closed his eyes, and in the darkness, he felt a strange sensation wash over him. It wasn't like anything he had ever experienced. It wasn't just a feeling of calm or peace. It was as though he could feel the entire planet breathing with him. The energy of all Thara pulsed in his veins, and for the first time in his life, he felt connected to something greater than himself. The energy was unlike anything Hale had known. It was not overwhelming or chaotic. It was steady, like a heartbeat that kept time with the rhythm of the universe. And in that moment, he understood. The Ilinar didn't just live on Althara. They were part of it. Their connection to the planet was a bond that went beyond mere physical presence. It was a shared essence, a shared energy. Hale's mind raced as he tried to comprehend the enormity of what he was feeling. His thoughts seemed to slow, and for the first time he felt the weight of his own existence. He had spent his life running from the emptiness inside him, filling the space with missions, with orders, with a constant drive to survive. But now, in this moment of stillness, he realized that survival was not enough. He needed more. He needed connection. A voice, soft and clear, echoed in his mind. Was Sorel's voice, but it felt like something more. It was as though the planet itself was speaking to him, guiding him. "You are not alone, Captain Hale.
You are part of something greater." The words sent a shock through Hale's body.
He gasped, his eyes snapping open. The energy around him pulsed in time with his heartbeat, and he could feel the presence of the Ilinar elders, their voices resonating in the air. He understood now. This was what they had meant. The bond wasn't just a metaphor. It was real. It was alive. Cyril stood before him, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light.
"You have felt it," she said.
"The bond. You are no longer just a visitor here. You are part of this world." Hale's breath caught in his throat.
He had always been taught to rely on his own strength, his own survival instincts. But now, in this moment, he realized that true strength came not from isolation, but from connection. "I understand," he whispered, his voice barely audible. I'm part of this." Sorel smiled, the expression one of quiet satisfaction.
"Yes, you are." For the first time since arriving on Althara, Hale felt a sense of peace settle in his chest.
The doubts that had clouded his mind began to clear, replaced by a quiet certainty. This bond, this connection to the world and its people, was not something that could be broken. It was a living force, one that transcended the boundaries of species and planets. As the last rays of the sun disappeared behind the horizon, Hale,